guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. I'm Mikey and I am extremely pissed off. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be about beauty or Wicca. Instead, it's going to be about something very personal to me and something that has very much impacted my everyday life, from my career to my love life to relationships with other people. And that thing is going to be medical abuse and shitty healthcare professionals. Specifically, shitty healthcare professionals being shitty on social media. So this whole thing was sparked the other day when I was scrolling through YouTube, watching some of my favorite people, and I came across a video by Sarah Hawkinson. And this video was called TikTok Nurses That Need to Be Stopped, or something to that effect. And one of the TikToks that Sarah reacts to in the video is one that I saw on Twitter some time ago that has honestly stuck with me ever since and bothered me every time I thought about it. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw that TikTok up on the screen and we'll watch it together and get into why I think it's so nasty and problematic. Yeah, so that was it. A nurse essentially mocking a patient for having a panic attack or chest pains or something of that variety. So this nurse in the TikTok is a woman who goes by D Rose on Twitter. So we're just gonna call her that. That's not her real name. If you really want to find her real name, it's out there. I'm not going to bother telling you. So this TikTok is a dramatization of a nurse making a beat and dancing to a patient hyperventilating, essentially. Maybe having chest pains, not quite sure what the symptoms were other than just that the patient was obviously in distress. Until the nurse starts to dance and make the beat, and then the patient just stops and goes back to the bed, because that's how things work in real life, apparently. The person who posted this put it on TikTok and Twitter, and it very quickly went viral, and also caused a hashtag that trended nationally called #PatientsAreNotFaking. Many people were, for good reason, very offended by this TikTok. I happen to be one of them. Although the TikTok itself was extremely offensive to me, and it did portray a very widespread problem in healthcare of patients not being believed and sort of being mocked for their symptoms. Something I've experienced, something many people have experienced, according to the comments on this video. What really throws me about the situation is that a healthcare professional would think this was a funny video to make and doesn't see anything wrong with it today, even after being called out for it. It's very disappointing and disturbing to me. And it makes me very sad. Because the way this nurse acts in this video, the way that nurses in general like this person will treat patients is why I have an extremely hard time trusting healthcare professionals and why I have avoided seeking medical care when I knew that I needed it and probably should seek it, because I'm afraid of being treated like this. It's happened in the past. It contributed to why I have PTSD. It contributed to why I've had such a difficult time getting a diagnosis for conditions that I deal with. Because it can be hard enough admitting that you need help and admitting that you can't take what you're going through anymore. But then when you go into the situation and you're treated like this, it can really destroy your trust and it can be very traumatic. And that is what I experienced, unfortunately. And even today, almost 7 years later, it's extremely difficult for me to talk about, and it's upsetting. And posts like this just bring back those memories for me. Which is something that apparently D. Rose would tell me that I'm being a little whiny snowflake over and that I needed to get over it because it was just a joke. Never mind that the sort of narrative that created this innocent joke destroyed my fucking life. What I almost have more of a problem with, though, than the TikTok itself is how she acts on Twitter after she starts receiving criticism over the TikTok. She released this statement, which I have right here on my tablet, so if you see me looking down, that's why I'm reading it. She says, "Please keep in mind that your perception is yours alone and it is based on opinion. The fact is, my video had nothing to do with race, mocking panic attacks, or anything else I've been accused of. Except there is an objective sort of standard for what is appropriate versus what is not appropriate behavior for a nurse to be exhibiting on social media. This crosses the line into the inappropriate behavior. It's not about opinion and perception. It's about the fact that you did something shitty that you are now refusing to apologize for, which we'll get into in a minute further on in her statement." She goes on to say, "Shown by how the patient abruptly stopped the heavy breathing when she noticed the nurse was singing. If I triggered a bad memory for you, I had no way of knowing that and took no part in that. It was not directed to anyone." Sure, maybe it wasn't directed at anyone personally, as in, there was no, like, "this is directed at you, Chad, you stupid son of a bitch," type of thing going on here. But it is directed at a group of people, and that group of people is disabled people, chronically ill people, and people with mental illnesses. There's just no way you can justify that this video is not directed at those people. Whether you intended it to be that way or not, it's directed at us, and it's harmful to us. And you don't really have any right to say that because you didn't intend for that to happen, you don't have any part in it happening, because it happened because your actions directly. Actions that were objectively inappropriate. She then says that, "I am both a healthcare provider and a patient. I see both sides of the spectrum and have had my fair share of problems with providers." Okay, that's fair, but are you a patient with a disability? Are you a patient with a chronic condition? Are you a patient with a mental health condition? Because if you're not, You don't know shit about our experience, and you don't have any right to speak on it. I also know myself and how much I love my job. I know how much I care for the people I come across, and I know the positive difference I make. The thing is, you're not making a positive difference with this video, so that's kind of a moot point in this discussion. There's no way you can argue that this TikTok made a positive difference on anyone's life. There's just no way you can argue that. It didn't even make a positive difference on your life, D. Rose, because you got death threats because of it. That's how pissed off people are at you, that they went on Twitter and they sent you death threats. I'm not condoning that, but I am saying that there's a reason it happened. I worked in memory care for 3 years and had to leave because my heart was broken when a patient I grew close to passed away. I then worked in mental health with alcohol and drug rehabilitation, which I loved, but I had to move. I now work in a new discipline that I love as well. To me, this sort of sounds like she might be saying, like, she no longer works where she used to work because people were calling and bitching at her about the situation she kind of created. Because people found out where she worked somehow. And they were calling this center that she worked at, complaining to her superiors about her behavior on social media. I suppose it's possible that she could have gotten fired for that, and a part of me hopes that she did. But I am just sort of speculating here that maybe she's still working at that facility, because based on her recent TikToks, it looks like they're filmed in the exact same place this TikTok was. So, I mean, that's just speculation. I'm not saying that it is or is not the case. That's just kind of what I think. Humor has always been what made me stand out to the people I work with and the patients I help. They come to me at what may be their worst times in their life, and my first reaction is always to figure out how I can make them smile. That was the intent of my video. Okay, that's fair. That's a fair thing if you're trying to make people kind of laugh and smile and have a better time when they're having a really tough time in their life. That makes sense. I think that's something that a lot of good healthcare providers do. However, when you're like kind of cracking jokes back and forth with a patient, you're normally in the room with them. And you can kind of read their reaction and see how your jokes are being received to see if they're offending the person or if they're making them laugh. When you post that to social media, you lose your ability to have that one-on-one connection with the person that it's directed at. And you lose your ability to gauge their reaction to see when you've crossed a line. Although I think you should just objectively know that this video crossed a line. And I don't see how any reasonable human being who understands the disability, the chronic illness, or the mental health community would think that this was just a lighthearted joke to these groups of people and that it would make them laugh and smile. She then went on to say the thing that just really settled the fact that I was making this video and deeply upset me, which was, I absolutely will not be bullied into apologizing or deleting a video because some people disagree with me. To me, what she's saying here is that I refuse to be held accountable for doing something shitty, and I'm going to claim that anyone who disagrees with me is bullying me because my ego is too ginormous to admit when I have made a mistake and to make it right. Thank you to those who have voiced their disagreement with me yet understood that the intent behind something matters just as much as the content. No, it really doesn't. The intent is important, and so is the content, but pretty much anybody who has made shitty, harmful content can say, like, well, the intent wasn't to do that, so it's okay, but it actually is not okay. Even if you didn't intend to hurt someone, you still did. So you owe the people you hurt an apology if you are a reasonable, kind human being, anyways. And I appreciate the many, in all caps, of you that have understood me and defended and supported me. I did not see much of that going on in any of the comments on this video. The majority of people were people who were offended by the video. There were very few people supporting her and defending her actions. Mostly it was just people telling her why this was wrong and offensive, in varying degrees of harshness and severity. There's very little support for it, which is reasonable. That's all I have to say on the subject. It's all love. No, Dee, it isn't all love. There was nothing loving about any of this. Especially not this bullshit excuse of an apology thread you did on Twitter. This is a non-apology. This is you trying to worm your way out of being held accountable by your audience by just saying that your ego is too big to understand what you did wrong and that you obviously don't have very much compassion for other human beings. Overwhelmingly, most of the responses on this video were ones like this one. Never forgot the time the anesthesiologist told me I needed discipline after I had a panic attack before surgery when I was 13. Shout out to my mom, a nurse, for being a real one and not trying to go off on him. Literally had a nurse tell me I was dramatic and that she couldn't deal with me anymore because I had a panic attack coming off anesthesia after getting my wisdom teeth out. Another person says, cool, cool, cool. I had nurses and doctors who thought I was faking. Too, for about 9 years. My pain and inability to function in society made it hard for me to keep a job or leave the house. Then I had to have a hysterectomy to save my life, but make those TikToks, I guess. This video would be funnier if it weren't for the fact that I lost consciousness, convulsed, and nearly lost my life in the emergency room because I wasn't taken seriously. It's sad that your ego is so fragile you can't admit that this went too far, but I guess that's asking too much because you didn't even care in the first place. The fact that so many are telling stories of almost dying due to their concerns not being taken seriously, and she still finds this funny, shows how much she cares. People don't understand until the same happens to them. This is what happens when the mean girls in high school go into nursing. A nurse thought my 42-year-old dad was faking a second stroke. She told him, I'm not helping you until you can clearly tell me what is wrong. After he lost his speech the first time, he went into a coma and died. In anyone's medical field, if this is how you feel, your attitude will cost someone their life one day, exactly why a lot of people avoid treatment. This person makes a very good point. I know that I have avoided treatment due to this issue. I know plenty of other people in the online community who have as well. This right here is why disabled people do not automatically trust medical professionals. They think we're exaggerating / faking when we really have medical stuff going on inside of us. This has happened multiple times. A doctor mistook my strokes for an exaggerated headache. This is almost as funny as the time I got into a car wreck and was having such bad abdominal pain that I vomited all the way to the hospital, and then the nurse ignored me and my pleas for water until I passed out from dehydration in a puddle of my own puke. And that's just some of the comments people are leaving on this video. Just some of them. Doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of how many there actually are. Then there was the situation between D. Rose and Brittany Ferlin, who, if you don't know, Brittany Ferlin is a YouTuber and podcaster, and she is Tommy Lee of Motley Crue's wife. She commented on this situation, saying, "It's not funny to me. You're a nurse. If someone is suffering like that, fake or not, it's not something to joke about. You're literally in a hospital. You're in scrubs. I suffer from panic disorder, and that's how I act when I'm having a panic attack, and seeing people make fun of it hurt." After this exchange, D. Rose dedicated a lot of her time to bullying and attacking and threatening Brittany, and taking clips of her Instagram stories from Lord only knows when and editing them out of context to make it seem like Brittany was being a hypocrite. She even posted tweets talking about how much Brittany pissed her off, which is kind of weird to me that the only person out of everyone saying this offended them, the only person that D. Rose went after was the one person with the most followers. The one person who was married to a famous rock star. That doesn't scream, "I want attention desperately" at all, now does it? Seems like one of the only supportive tweets are from nurses. This one, which reads, "If you're not in the medical service, you wouldn't get it. Thank the Lord for having your page come across my timeline. I was beginning to think I was the only one who was feeling some type of way about certain patient types." And what type is that, Sophia? Is it disabled people? Is it people who have panic attacks? Is it the mentally ill? What type of patient are you referring to? That you just can't stand so much that you think it's funny to mock them? I really want to know. I really want to know what type of patient you think it's acceptable to abuse. And from here on, D. Rose's responses only get worse. Another person who said, "Yeah, great, I had shortness of breath, heart palpitations, fainted multiple times, and had a seizure in the ER, waiting because the nurse thought I was faking or on something, LOL. You're so funny and relatable." And D. Rose responds with "thank you" to that. "Imagine thinking this behavior is cute," says another response, to which D. Rose responds, "I am adorable." Same person responds, "Nah, you're really not with this attitude. It's actually disgusting." To which her only response was to use a sparkly gif of the word "your" to correct this person's grammar. Then we have other people who are claiming to be patients of D. Rose in real life who have said such things as this tweet. I swear this was my labor and delivery nurse. And then she tags the hospital. When I told her I felt like I needed to push, she said I was over-exaggerating, and 3 minutes later, I had my baby naturally without epidural like I had requested because she thought I was faking. I can't confirm that this person is really a patient of hers, but if she was, and this was an honest account of their interaction, would it surprise me? No, it would not. The biggest problem I have with this is almost her reaction. Just the fact that she so blatantly doesn't give a fuck about the people this video hurt or offended, which in turn means that she does not care about the people who have died because of this narrative. I think this is a very serious issue that needs to be addressed more. Because it seems like a lot of people didn't really think it was that serious, and that these TikToks are just jokes and they ultimately don't have any effect on the real world, but I don't think that's true. Because I have personally experienced the effect they have on the real world, and I personally have to live with the aftermath of that effect every day of my life. So no, I don't think this is funny. And honestly, I am not sorry that this person, had some trouble with backlash on social media, because this video and this narrative is essentially the same thing as a death threat to people in my situation and people who are disabled. And it could be a death threat to you watching this, or your family member or your friend one day as well. So it makes sense that people are pissed. I'm pissed. And if you want to call me a silly little child or a snowflake or whatever the fuck you want to call me for that, go right ahead, but just know that you are part of the problem and you are hurting people too. Anyone who thinks this TikTok is funny needs to seriously reevaluate their sense of humor and what they're thinking is funny. Because it's not. Another thing I've heard a lot of people say is that just because she made this TikTok, it is not a reflection of who she is as a person or who she is as a nurse. And I disagree with that pretty strongly. Because for one, if you want to know a little bit more about who D. Rose is as a person, she was arrested in 2019 for driving while intoxicated, DWI. Her mugshot is on the internet. She willingly made the choice to get behind the wheel of 1,000 or more pound car while she was hammered and endanger her life and the lives of everyone around her, because she was just, too drunk or too lazy or just not caring enough to call an Uber. I think that says a lot about a person if they're willing to endanger people like that. And I also think that she made the decision to put on her scrubs and go to work one morning and then to make this video. She made the decision to mock her patients. And she made the decision to not give a shit when she faced backlash for it, and to not admit that she was wrong. That also speaks to who she is as a person. if you are going to put on a uniform, be it a nurse's uniform, a doctor's, a police officer's, hell, even a Starbucks barista or a FedEx driver's uniform, how you behave while you're wearing that is a representation of your profession and of your job. Take this as an example. If you're a Starbucks employee and one day you get pissed off at one of your patrons and you try to run them over with a car while wearing your Starbucks uniform, when the news picks that story up, the headline is going to read, "Starbucks employee tries to kill patron." Your uniform does play a role in who you are, and you do represent people who wear that uniform. And if you're not going to represent them in a positive light, then you have to deal with the consequences of that. And what D. Rose is not doing is dealing with those consequences. Or more of not dealing with them in an appropriate manner. Again, I'm not saying that she deserved to be harassed or to receive death threats, but she did deserve to have people hold her accountable, and sadly, I don't think it's working. And honestly, as a little message for D. Rose and nurses like her, I really do want you to try and understand what you've done to people like me. But also, I don't know how to teach you how to care about people. I don't know how to teach you to have compassion. And I don't know of anything I can say that can make you feel things for your patients if you don't already. If years and years of school to become a nurse didn't teach you that, I wonder if anything can. And I wonder if you have a place in nursing, because I don't think you do. I don't think you have a place in any healthcare type field. There's plenty of jobs out there that you could be doing that you wouldn't be hurting people in. And there's just honestly no excuse to make a video like this. It's just objectively not funny and shitty and just a horrible thing to do. And you know, I probably will get shit for making this video, and I don't care. Because this is my story, and this is how I feel about it, and I'm not going to apologize for that. And I'm not going to feel like I have to. If a person like D. Rose can make a TikTok like this and not feel forced to apologize, then why should I? This is just sort of how I feel, and you can agree or disagree, but that's just that. I'm still really fucking pissed about this TikTok, though. And then there's kind of the issue of racism that we need to talk about here. There is, in America, astronomically more black women dying in child labor and maternity wards across the country than there is of white women. So I'll just let some post from black women do the talking instead of me. This person says, "Actually, y'all don't know. That's why so many black women die, 'cause y'all think they're faking." But continue. D. Rose responded to this one with the reach and like 6 laughing emojis. This person says, "This has never happened to me, so I have no investment." Shut up, sensitive people. This same attitude is why black women go into labor and delivery and never come out. So what makes this almost even worse, in my opinion, is the fact that D. Rose herself appears to be black or mixed race. So she's kind of shitting on her own people here. There's just so much wrong with this situation. And I can't, my brain can't compute how anyone would think this is funny. If you think this is funny, are you okay? What is wrong with you? Do you need help? Can we, get you a therapist or something? What can we do for you to make you understand this is fucking shitty? Can we also talk about the narrative that patients are faking things? Because sure, some people might be, trying to get some painkillers or some other drugs. Some of them are doing that, but most of us aren't. For one, the price of healthcare in America is astronomically stupid. So why would any of us, especially the uninsured, pay an astronomically stupid price to go to the hospital or to our doctor and make up some shit for no apparent reason? Do you think we just like to burn our money? If I wanted to do that, I would not go to the hospital and fake shit and make shit up. I would go out on my back porch and throw my paycheck in the barbecue grill. It's just ridiculous to me that it is automatically assumed that everyone who has a problem is just making it up for attention. That's some fucking expensive attention. There's cheaper ways we could get it. We could go make a crappy TikTok making fun of people and get more attention. So why wouldn't we just be doing that if attention is all we wanted? Why wouldn't we just be going on the internet saying stupid shit and getting attention? Because the only attention you get for faking symptoms is typically abusive attention. If we wanted that, there's a million other ways we could get it that we don't have to pay out the ass for. Can someone explain that to me, please? Anyways, I'm sorry if I offended anyone or if I got a little bit too heated in this video. It is what it is, though, and I'm not going to apologize for how I feel about this, but hopefully the next one will be a little bit more fun and positive. Thank you for watching and putting up with my ranty bullshit. I really appreciate it, and I hope you will like this video and subscribe to this channel and come back next time for hopefully a happier video. See you later.